You knew you were wrong about 10 seconds ago. You felt it. That small, cold drop in your stomach the moment the evidence landed. And yet here you are, still arguing, still finding the angle, still explaining why, technically, in a certain light, you weren't really wrong. The words, "I was wrong," are sitting right there, two of the simplest words in the language, and you cannot get them out of your mouth. You think this means you're stubborn, arrogant, that you've got too much ego, that you always have to be right. That's what people say about you, maybe. And quietly, you've started to believe it. You're wrong about that too, and this one's worth getting right, because what's actually happening inside you isn't arrogance at all. It's the opposite. It's a kind of fear so old and so well defended that it's learned to look like confidence. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly what that part of you is protecting, why it fights so hard, and how to take back the one thing it quietly took from you: the ability to be wrong without it costing you your whole sense of who you are. Let's start with what's happening in the moment, the 10 seconds after you realize you've made a mistake, because something very specific fires off in there, and psychologists have a name for it. The feeling is called cognitive dissonance. The psychologist Leon Festinger described it decades ago, and it's one of the most reliably observed forces in all of psychology. Here's the simple version. Your mind holds a picture of who you are. I'm a smart person. I'm a good person. I'm someone who gets things right. And when new information arrives that contradicts that picture, you got this wrong. You hurt that person. You missed the obvious thing. The two don't fit. And the not fitting is genuinely, physically uncomfortable. Your mind treats it like a splinter. It wants the discomfort gone. Now here's the part that explains everything. There are two ways to get rid of that discomfort. You can change the picture of yourself. Okay, I guess I'm someone who got this one wrong. Or you can change the facts. Bend them, reframe them, find the loophole, blame the conditions, attack the person who pointed it out, until the contradiction disappears, and your picture of yourself stays perfectly intact. And here's what almost everyone does, almost every time, without ever deciding to. They change the facts, because changing the facts feels easier than changing who you think you are. Two researchers, Carol Tavris and Elliot Aronson, spent a whole book on this. They call it self-justification, and their finding is brutal and freeing at the same time. It's not that dishonest people justify themselves. It's that justifying ourselves is what lets us keep feeling like honest people. The mind edits reality to protect the self, automatically, before you've consciously chosen anything. So let me give you an image to hold for the rest of this, because once you see it, you'll catch it happening in real time. Picture a lawyer, a defense attorney, sharp-suited, brilliant, completely devoted, and the client they're defending is your self-image, your sense of being good, capable, right. The instant a piece of evidence shows up suggesting you made a mistake, this lawyer leaps to their feet. Objection, and they go to work, not to find the truth. The truth was never their job, but to protect their client by any means available. They reinterpret what happened. They find the technicality. They put the other person on trial instead. They produce 3 reasons it wasn't really your fault, faster than you could consciously think of one. And they're good. That's the thing. This lawyer is excellent at their job. The smarter you are, the better your lawyer, which is the cruel twist researchers keep finding. Intelligent people aren't more willing to admit they're wrong. They're often better at constructing reasons they weren't. Now, where did this lawyer come from? Because you didn't hire them on purpose. And this matters, because it's where the compassion comes in. Somewhere back there, being wrong stopped being safe. Maybe a mistake got you humiliated. Maybe in your house, being wrong meant being mocked, or punished, or loved a little less for a while. Maybe you simply learned, the way a lot of us did, that your worth was tied to your performance, that you were valued for being the smart one, the capable one, the one who had the answers. And so a small, frightened part of you came to a conclusion that made complete sense at the time. Being wrong is dangerous. Being wrong means being less. And it hired a lawyer to make sure you were never caught defenseless again. That's not arrogance. Listen to that again. The person who cannot admit they're wrong is very often someone who, deep down, isn't sure they're worth anything unless they're right. The defensiveness isn't too much self-worth. It's too little, propped up by a legal team working around the clock. The researchers Jessica Tracy and Richard Robbins draw a line here that's worth knowing. There's a kind of pride that's real, authentic pride. The quiet, sturdy sense of, I did that well, I worked for it. And there's another kind, hubristic pride. The loud, brittle kind that's actually defending against a fear of being exposed as not enough. Authentic pride can say, I was wrong easily, because being wrong about one thing doesn't threaten the whole structure. Hubristic pride can't, because the structure is hollow, and one admission feels like it could bring the whole thing down. The person who can't be wrong isn't full of themselves. They're protecting an emptiness they're terrified someone will see. So how do you set the lawyer down, without becoming a doormat, without losing the part of you that has real standards and real conviction? You don't fire them. They were trying to protect you, and there are real moments where standing your ground is exactly right. You do one thing instead. You change your job in the courtroom. Because here's the mistake. You've been sitting in the client's chair this whole time. The defendant, the one on trial, the one whose entire worth is what's being judged. And from that chair, every "you were wrong" really does feel like a threat to your existence. Because if the client loses, the client is condemned. No wonder the lawyer fights so hard. You've been treating every disagreement like a trial where you are the thing on the line. But you were never supposed to be the defendant. You're supposed to be the judge. A judge can hear the evidence, all of it, even the damning parts, without being destroyed by it, because the judge's worth was never what was on trial. The judge can say, yes, that point is correct, I see it now, and lose absolutely nothing, because the judge isn't the client. The judge is the calm presence who simply wants to know what's true. And the move, the whole tool, is to feel that hot defensive surge rise up, that objection forming in your throat, and to quietly step out of the client's chair and into the judge's seat. To ask, instead of how do I win this, a different question, what if they're right? Not as a surrender, as a judge, considering the evidence. The first time you do it, it will feel like losing. That's the lawyer, panicking, certain that conceding the point means condemning the client. Let them panic. You're not condemning anyone. You're just discovering something you didn't know a moment ago, which, if you think about it, is the only way any person has ever gotten wiser. Every single thing you now know and once didn't, you learned by being wrong first and surviving it. And here's what happens over time. As you practice this, the lawyer relaxes. The stakes come down. Because every time you say, actually, you're right, I hadn't thought of it that way, and the sky doesn't fall, and you're still standing, still worthy, still you. You teach that frightened part of you the thing it never learned, that being wrong and being worthless were never the same thing. They just got wired together a long time ago, in a moment when you were too small to know the difference. So here's where you are now, if you've stayed with me. The reason you can't just say, I was wrong, was never stubbornness or arrogance. It's a defense your mind built, automatic, fast, and loyal, to protect a sense of worth that once felt like it depended on being right. The lawyer in your head isn't your enemy. They're a frightened part of you that decided, long ago, that being wrong was too dangerous to allow. And the way out isn't to fight them or shame yourself for being defensive. It's to step out of the client's chair into the judge's seat and discover that the verdict you were so afraid of was never about your worth at all. That's the whole thing, not swallow your pride. The opposite, really. The person who can say I was wrong easily isn't the one with the least pride. They're the one with the sturdiest, the kind that doesn't need defending because it was never hollow to begin with. So before you go, I want to hear it, because someone scrolling these comments right now is mid-argument in their head, knowing they're wrong and unable to say it, and calling themselves arrogant for something that's actually fear. So tell me below, where is it hardest for you to admit you're wrong? With a partner? A parent? At work? And what do you think would happen, really happen, if just once you said, you know what, you're right, and let the rest go? Be honest. You'll be surprised how familiar your answer looks to everyone else reading. The reason you can't admit you're wrong was never proof that you think too highly of yourself. It's proof that some part of you is still defending a worth it was once afraid to lose. And now, from the judge's seat, you get to tell it the case is over. It can rest. You were always worth more than being right.